Hello everyone and welcome. We have a lot of videos covering cancelled and unreleased games in the Zelda series, as well as Mario, Donkey Kong, Mega Man, Metroid, and other Nintendo and even PlayStation games. This video is going to focus more on lost gaming media instead of cancelled games. These are Zelda games, projects, or demos that Nintendo created but are no longer available, or Zelda games that were completely finished and released but are just impossible to get. If you're a fan of videos like this, please give this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. If this video gets enough likes and comments, we will do a video covering even more lost Zelda games, and we will give you a shout out if we use a game that you suggest in the comments below. So let's get started. 1. Zelda 2D Breath of the Wild demo. When asked which Zelda game fans would like to see remade, one of the most common is the original Legend of Zelda. As it turns out, we've seen something quite close to this, but with a twist. When Nintendo was giving a behind-the-scenes look at the making of Zelda Breath of the Wild, they didn't just give us a breakdown on Breath of the Wild's engine, but they revealed a fully playable 2D demo that fused Breath of the Wild with the original Zelda game. Nintendo said Breath of the Wild's biggest inspiration was the original Legend of Zelda. They even point out key artwork such as this, and the heavy focus on the Lynels. So, to come up with new concepts and gameplay mechanics, as well as the best ways to implement them for Breath of the Wild, they tested them out in this new 2D engine. While it may look like a simple mod of the 8-bit The Legend of Zelda, it was much more, offering many brand new gameplay mechanics that would just be impossible on an NES. In a way, Nintendo created their own version of the retro 8 or 16-bit indie games we see from current independent or small studios. Games such as Shovel Knight, Terraria, Celeste, Stardew Valley, Undertale, or Hollow Knight. With a lot of work already done, it seems like it would be easy for a large and incredibly experienced team like Nintendo to go the extra step and complete the tech demo as an actual game. Nintendo has confirmed their 2D Zelda team has been working on a new 2D Zelda game, and when asked about details, Aonuma even stated he wants to evolve what we think of 2D Zelda. While there are many ways to do this, one interesting way would be to continue a project like this, mixing traditional 2D Zelda with new mechanics which simply wouldn't have been possible at all on the original 8-bit NES. What kind of new ideas and concepts would you like to see Nintendo implement into a game like this? Think about how much more advanced games like Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons or Link's Awakening were to the original Zelda, and then try to think of scenarios or gameplay mechanics that we would finally be able to achieve now that was just simply impossible back then. 2. Four Swords Anniversary Edition. Developed by Capcom, Four Swords released on the Game Boy Advance in December of 2002. Bundled with A Link to the Past, some fans loved playing 4-player multiplayer Zelda. However, most found it too difficult as it required 4 friends, each with their own Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Link cable, and their own copy of the game. So yeah, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Legend of Zelda series, Nintendo had 𝐓𝐻𝐿 develop a remastered version for Nintendo DS. This version, Four Swords Anniversary Edition, had many improvements and enhanced features. Not only could you now play multiplayer wirelessly, but it also came with a great single-player mode. And all that was required was simply the game and the console, no extra accessories. The best part? Nintendo released this enhanced remaster completely free, though sadly it was only available from September 28, 2011 until February 20th, 2012, just short of 6 months. However, in 2014, to celebrate the incredible positive response for A Link Between Worlds, Nintendo allowed it to be downloaded again, this time only from January 30th to February 2nd, so only for a few short days. Rumors suggested it would make a third return, this time for Nintendo Switch for the 35th anniversary, and just as a lot of the NES and SNES games available with the Nintendo Online service, it would also include an online multiplayer function, which would be amazing. Sadly, this didn't happen, but Aonuma is always stating he wants to release more online multiplayer Zelda games, so maybe we will get it or a new one soon, especially now that Nintendo has massively overhauled and upgraded their online servers. So yes, while this game did release, and some people do have it on their DS and 3DSs, it is impossible for new fans, or those who just didn't know at the time, to download or access the game. 3. Zelda HD Experience. Most commonly known as the Zelda Wii U tech demo, this was the first glimpse of what an HD Zelda game would look like, as well as a way for Nintendo to show off and demo ideas and mechanics that made use of the Wii U gamepad's second screen. Nintendo stated this was what Twilight Princess could potentially look like, if remade in HD for the Wii U. However, when Twilight Princess HD did release on the Nintendo Wii U, it just looked like a slightly enhanced version of the original, and absolutely nothing like the tech demo that Nintendo stated. However, they did go on to use this engine with Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword. In the end, filling Wind Waker benefited the most, which led to Wind Waker HD. However, Tantalus remade Twilight Princess HD, and seemingly didn't have any access to this new engine, so they could only enhance the original engine. Nintendo would continue working on the engine, and eventually the demo would heavily evolve into Breath of the Wild. Sadly, it seems we won't be seeing a full Zelda game making use of this art style or character models. Although it was slightly playable by the public when first revealed at E3, it is now lost, and all we have is some off-screen gameplay. Although not an official art style for a Zelda game, this remains a favorite among a lot of fans. 4. Zelda Spaceworld 2000. Similar to the Zelda HD Experience, it seems Zelda 128, the Zelda GameCube tech demo, or Zelda Spaceworld 2000 was only meant to be a demonstration, this time of what Ocarina of Time could look like if created to take full advantage of the Nintendo GameCube. The chances of getting this as an actual game seem to have been a bit higher than most on this list. Yes, we all know about how fans fell in love with the art style and then were let down by the cartoony art style of the Wind Waker, which caused its sequel to be cancelled and Nintendo to start developing an entirely new Zelda game in the exact opposite art style, which led to the realistic Twilight Princess. So, how could we have gotten a Zelda game in this art style? Well, famously, after Ocarina of Time, Miyamoto wanted to begin development on a new Zelda game for the upcoming GameCube. However, Aonuma wanted to take the unused ideas and concepts that went unused in Ocarina of Time and its unreleased disc expansions, and create a new Zelda game for Nintendo 64. Miyamoto compromised with Aonuma and gave him permission to develop what would become Majora's Mask. However, he had to finish it within a single year. In 2000, the year of its release, Nintendo also showed off this tech demo, which they had also been working on. When asked about how the cartoony art style for Wind Waker originated, they stated that they were simply tired of the Ocarina of Time art style and wanted something new. Someone on the team had doodled Toon Link, and when others seen it, it ended up being the new refreshing style Nintendo was looking for. The reasoning on why they chose the Toon Link art style implies that if Aonuma had not worked on a second Zelda game in the same art style, as well as work on the tech demo, which shared an enhanced version of the art style, Nintendo wouldn't have gotten tired of it. Perhaps they could have moved straight from Ocarina of Time to the new Zelda game on GameCube, as Miyamoto suggested. And since they wouldn't have spent time on Majora's Mask, we may have gotten a full Zelda game in this art style. Retro Studios' Zelda game. This is an honorable mention as it never actually began production, but we do know a lot of information about it, despite only being in concept phases. It would have been a Zelda game where we played as Sheik in a dark new vision of Hyrule. We have this video here that goes a lot more in depth and covers every detail and dissects every image released from the project, so please check it out. And please subscribe if you want more videos like this.
Zelda 64 is a bit more than simply a beta for Ocarina of Time, as the game went through many huge changes and several different phases. Beginning with a simple tech demo that resembled nothing we see in the final game, we have hours of information on every phase of the game, so you can start by clicking here if you want a complete in-depth video on it. To put it simply, the game began taking place entirely in a castle like Super Mario 64. Then Nintendo realized the N64 was a lot more powerful than they originally thought. So the game began to expand and they had the idea to develop Zelda 64 on the Nintendo disk drive. The game would have had some different items, way larger areas, different characters, dungeons, and more. Most notably, the story changed completely in each of these phases. Nintendo then moved the game from the disk drive to cartridge. The game began to resemble the final games a bit more, but still had some different story elements, such as having no child Link. Instead, we had an adult Link that began in the Kokiri Forest. Because it moved from the disc to the cartridge, a lot of the content and story had to be removed. The idea was to use some of it as add-on content for the cartridge game, having the N64 and disc expansion working together for the full gaming experience. It went through even more drastic changes, and Nintendo came up with so many different ideas that one disc expansion was split into two disc expansions, Zelda Era and Zelda Gaiden. Zelda Era went from containing everything to only being remixed dungeons, a boss rush, and other additional content. All of the new content, new dungeons, new items, new areas, new story, and more was moved off of the Era expansion and onto its own expansion, now called Zelda Gaiden. Zelda Era would go on to become Master Quest, while Zelda Gaiden became Majora's Mask. And if you're interested in Zelda 64's development, cut content, and maybe some other games cut content history as well, definitely check out my YouTube channel, The Obsessive Gamer, which you can find a link in the description below.
Hey everyone, it's me again, 𝐓𝐼𝐬𝐿. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future.